to the show. I have my good friend Thomas Ellis of E.W.C. Consulting. We've been talking about getting together for a while now. In fact, you are the very reason that we started this show. I think back to our conversation that we had about the need for a platform to have these type of real conversations where people can listen into some of the insights that we often get to share during our strategy sessions. So, brother, welcome to the show.
Hey, it's a pleasure to be here, and I'm excited to learn and talk and help people get things done.
Yeah, and you know, the interesting thing is we've really been talking about how do you take your abilities as a coach and apply them in a real world environment. I mean, think about it. You and I are both super active on LinkedIn. We comment, we post, we share. How do you transform all that stuff, right, that's happening in those social environments or real-time conversations and apply it to the real role of a coach? And I think that's a conversation that I want to share with our audience today.
And that is a great conversation. So, you know, coaching, you know, people they talk about coaching. What is coaching, right?
Yeah.
We think of athletes that have coaches, right?
Yes.
And you and I are avid golfers, and you know the golfers have putting coaches and short game coaches, and what they do is they take what you already have,
Yes.
and they tweak and tune it, right?
Okay.
They make minor changes. They don't scrap everything.
Yes.
Right. So when we talk about sales coaching or business coaching, we want to take a look at what the individual is doing now. Okay. And we want to break that down, and we want to give them something else, add something to it. We don't want to tear it down and build it from scratch because we don't have that much time.
Yeah.
But and in most cases, they're doing some really great things.
Yeah, but you know what? I feel like coaching often is presented in a way that I'm going to tear you down. We were having this conversation once before that coaching often feels like criticism. And I think there's some very specific reasons why that's the case. I think there's a misnomer personally that people think, okay, if I have a coach, that means that person is here to take everything that I'm doing and give me a new way to do it. They don't see the benefit of using those accelerators, things that I'm doing very well, leveraging those, and then finding some other areas that I can either enhance or improve or actually cut out, right? I think using the analogy of golf, there's just some things that you get hitchy, right, in the swing. It's like, I'm not trying to give you something to fix that. We're actually trying to get rid of it.
Right. So one of the things that we talk, I teach and coach people on some simple things. Like I would sit down with potential clients and say, okay, what are areas that you want to work on?
Okay.
So they give me, say, Thomas, I'm lousy at prospecting, or I'm lousy at the first meeting, and I'm having a hard time getting the next meeting.
Yes.
And so I would go through and say, well, tell me about your last meeting and what you did, and inevitably I come up with something that's going to help them. The number one thing that I find that most people don't do,
Yes,
they don't ask for the next meeting.
But now let's talk about that. Should there be an ask for the next meeting? It sounds like you're saying yes, I agree. But why aren't people asking for the next meeting? I mean, we've been talking about this for decades, right? That you've got to have some type of next step that moves the process forward. And not just from the sales perspective, but from the customer's perspective or your client's perspective.
So it's mindset, right? It's we wait. Most common thing you hear is if you and I have a great meeting and it's just great, this is a great meeting, Thomas. And I say, well, what should we do next? So, well, let's get back together in 2 weeks.
Yes.
And I leave.
Right.
And I go home and go, great, I got another meeting with Ed, but I got to call him in 2 weeks. And I was like, well, you were there with Ed, right? Yeah. You face it, right?
Yes.
Why did you take your calendar out and say 2 weeks? Ed is September 25th.
Yeah.
Let's make the appointment this morning or afternoon work. I find that most people I work with, it's just getting them to do it. It's the behavior.
Yes.
Right?
I couldn't agree more. And I have a personal experience. So recently I met with a client, had a great conversation. The meeting was extended because we were creating enough value for each other and we wanted to have this real robust dialogue. And as the meeting was coming to an end, the client said, take out your calendar for me. Can you tell me when you're available? Right? I mean, that's the type of action that we want. Now, it was in my plan to do that. They beat me to the punch. I think it comes down to a matter of can you create enough value so that that person is genuinely interested in that next meeting, and it's not just a follow-up, right?
And that's a good point. And how do we get there? So before we have that meeting, we have to be prepared for the meeting.
Yes.
So we can demonstrate the value. So the person says, you know what, we should talk again.
Yeah.
Right? Because how many times have we had meetings where we leave the meeting, you go, there's nothing else to talk about,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Our solution doesn't fit their needs. They're not in a position to move forward. Bad timing.
Yes.
But for those meetings where the customer's saying, wow, this sounds really good, and I think there's possibility here, and you say, well, what should we do next?
Right.
And we have in our minds some next steps that we would like to see, like maybe we come back and do a presentation on some solution suggestions.
Okay.
Maybe we invite some other people to the next meeting.
Right.
Some people that'll be part. So whatever those next steps are,
Okay.
we should clearly define them and go, oh, by the way, we're going to have a meeting in 2 weeks. Now I have a date and time. So I would say, so hey, what are we going to talk about?
Right.
Now you get the agenda.
Yes.
So to me, in all these many years I've been training and coaching and managing and selling, it's mindset. And I'll give you an example. I'm working with a landscape contractor for the last 6 months, and they're just now getting to the point to where when we do our sessions, I say, so what's the next step? And they go, I made an appointment. And I said, great, so what's the purpose of the appointment? I'm going to bring them the design and the proposal.
Yes.
And we give high fives.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, because now they're thinking ahead. And, planning, people that know me, I do this when I'm working with clients, when they say things like, we've got to build value, we got to do planning. Those things sound great. They look great on paper. But what's involved in planning? I mean, how has planning evolved in your opinion, right? Because some people might say, oh, I planned, right? I have a list of things that I know I want to do, but they're in my head, right? How do you coach your clients in terms of effectively planning for that meeting and getting to that point where they're ready to take the next step?
So that is a great question. So one of the things that we talk about is, okay, what is the objective of the call? What are you trying to accomplish? Are you trying to get information?
Okay.
Are you trying to learn more about projects that they're working on? What are you trying to accomplish?
Okay.
Once you understand that, then you want to figure out, okay, what are some questions I need to ask?
Yeah.
Right? Now, what I teach and work with clients on is we should have, now this is old school selling here, all right?
Okay.
Your audience is paying attention? This goes back to Xerox and spin selling.
Right.
10 open-ended questions.
Yes.
Right? And have 5 closing questions. I'm not saying that you're going to use them all the time, but you should have these and you should rehearse those.
Yes.
Because as the conversation goes, those questions will just come up in you and they'll come out to the client.
Okay.
So have those, okay? Have an understanding of what is the mission of that company.
Right.
And you want to figure out in that dialogue what's important to them that they want to fix today.
That's the key. And I love questions. Again, my allegiance and my spin background, love questions. But I also think there's an opportunity to move from baseline questions, right, and even looking in, evaluating your 10 questions that you're recommending they have, to how do we move from a position of questioning to inquisitiveness? We're trying to push clients to the point where they're thinking of it in terms of inquisitiveness, which means they go out and they do their research, they build a background, they identify some of those key metrics, behaviors, needs that the client is trying to drive toward, and they use that as their foundation to build their question.
Absolutely. There's nothing worse than feel like you're interrogated, right?
Yes.
And so we teach people how to have, it's all about conversations, right? And somehow in those conversations we have to intertwine questions to give us information so we can ask deeper questions.
Yes.
So we get to the root of the problems that they want to fix in the next 60, 90, 180 days.
Yes.
If we don't do that properly, the customer prospect feels like they're being thrown questions and they're going to sit back and never going to get there'll be no next meeting.
That's right. Yeah. Or the next meeting sounds something like this. Great, let's pick a day and time, and then the person doesn't show up for the call. They send an email that cancels. There's always some out because when they reflect back on the meeting, they just didn't find enough value in the initial conversation to do something else. And in today's world where we don't have a lot of time, right? We all guard our time because it's so precious. You allocate your time to things that bring you the greatest value or help you solve a problem or avoid a consequence, not something that's just...
You bring up another great point, people's time, right? So when you get a meeting and somebody accepts a meeting, that's gold.
Yeah.
That's gold, right? You have to cherish that. You have to be, that's where the preparation comes into play. That you have 20 to 30 minutes to move there to the next step. Because they're having a conversation with you because something that you did or said interests them.
Yes.
Right? There's an interest. I don't know about you, but I don't take meetings with people just because they look good or I take because, wow, maybe this product and service can help my business. Maybe it can help one of my clients' business.
Yes.
That's why we take those meetings. So now if I'm prepared on that meeting and I know a little bit about Ed Ross and his company and I see some things he's doing, so instead of me asking you the ridiculous questions, so tell me what you do, I can say,
well, what keeps you up at night?
What keeps you up at night? What keeps you up at night?
Yeah.
Right? Never ask those questions. But I'm asking you questions like, hey, Ed, I just realized that you guys are building this new platform. Sounds exciting. Tell me why you're excited about it and what it's going to help professionals do.
Yes.
I won't be able to get you to shut up.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
So that's what we need to have in those types of conversations.
Yeah, and I think, the key to that, again, is number one, being prepared. What type of research you have, how do you introduce that research? And again, this whole concept of creating value, love it, not saying that it's wrong, but you've got to find a way to connect to that customer. And the easiest way to get there is to start looking at those things that matter most to them, those metrics that they're trying to drive, their responsibilities within that organization. And once you can get them to open up there, it gives you an opportunity. So, Thomas, I think that there's an opportunity to help people kind of reshape some of their behaviors, right? While we book that meeting and we have that 2-week window, we're super excited that we have this meeting coming up in 2 weeks. But then you have this quiet time that's introduced by that 2-week period. So the way we try to coach clients is in between that 2-week time, there's things that you could be doing to ensure that you're preparing that client for that conversation, sending articles, using social media, connecting them to other resources that may not be in your skill set, so that when they come to that meeting, they're already anticipating, they understand the value of that meeting.
I call that top of mind strategy, right?
Okay.
So we want to be top of mind in those 2 weeks. I want to be thinking about me, my company, my services. So we would link up with them on LinkedIn and we kind of monitor and see what they comment and write on. And if it's something of interest to us, we write a comment.
Okay.
We see if they comment on any of our activities, okay? For example, I was working with I had a meeting with a client who was hiring.
Okay.
And I saw that job posting, and so I sent them an email. I said, hey, I may know some people that may be interested in this opportunity. Who can I send this information to? And they said, wow, they were shocked. And so trying to build value, right?
Right.
Trying to be a resource.
Yes.
Right? Because the key thing is, if you can help somebody solve a problem, even if it's not in what you do, when they get to that meeting, the first thing they're going to say is, thank you for taking the time to do that.
That's right.
Right? So you do LinkedIn, you follow up, you send information, articles on the particular topic, and a few days before the meeting, you send them a little note that says, hey, Ed, I'm really excited and looking forward to our meeting. Can't wait to learn and share some insights.
Yeah, and one of the practices that I've learned from you is social media, all that stuff, that written communication is great. But sometimes you just need to pick up the darn phone, right? You just need to pick up the phone and be able to say, hey, Thomas, I'm really looking forward to it. When we spoke the last time, these were the things we committed to discuss. Is there anything new that you'd like to add to the agenda so that I can make sure we're both prepared? Exactly. That now gives you an opportunity to stay current, right? Because like I said, in that 2-week window, things change. Competition comes in and they plant their seeds, or there's things that happen in the business that drive change. And if you're 2 weeks late on that, you don't know that information, that could drastically have an impact on the way that you engage with the customer and maybe some of those questions that we're talking about building.
Absolutely. And you brought up a great point, the agenda.
Yes.
Right? How many people, and I was to say most people do not send out an agenda.
Okay.
I'm amazed that I work with clients all these years and people say, yeah, I have a meeting. I said, so what's the agenda? Agenda? Well, I know what I want to talk about, but does the client know what you want to talk about? No. I said, well, why don't you do an agenda?
Yes.
You're going to be appear to be different, and one of my acronyms I use is being the BUD, being better, unique, and desirable.
Yes.
Right? So you want to be better and unique and desirable. Send an agenda. And the agenda could be very simple. If it's your initial meeting, you want to learn about them, they want to learn about you, and you want to see how y'all can work together. Simple agenda, send it out, say, hey, if you'd like to add anything to this agenda, let me know. And when you get to the meeting,
yes,
and you're sitting across from them, you can say, has anything changed since our last conversation?
Yeah, and if I look at it this way, you could also use that as a tool to share with them some of the things you plan to talk about. It would prevent you from going to that meeting and being misaligned, especially if you say to them, hey, take a look at the agenda, recommend any changes or anything like you like to add. If I see something that is not of value or not something I'm prioritizing for our conversation, I can come back to you and go, that particular item, the last bullet point there, let's leave that for another conversation. I don't know what budget is yet. I won't know that for another 3 months. And now we can really focus on what's important.